It's the second anniversary of the deadly July unrest. More than 350 people were killed and dozens injured as malls, stores, warehouses and other infrastructure in KZN and parts of Gauteng were looted and some even set alight. The rioting or civil unrest went on for days. The impact of the violence still being felt today. Let's discuss this more with Jakkie Cilliers. He's the head of the African Futures and Innovation at the Institute for Security Studies, and he joins us virtually this morning. Jakkie, thank you so much for your time. At the risk of sounding melodramatic, would you say that those were the days that the young democracy that is South Africa lost its innocence in a way?
Good morning. Yes, well, to a degree. Sadly, I think we lost our innocence a few years before that.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's the tragedy. But certainly the challenge I think we face today is that the underlying drivers of instability, violence, unrest have not changed. So we all speak a lot about poor leadership. That's true. But the challenges with regard to unemployment, poverty, and then, of course, a dysfunctional and unresponsive criminal justice system have not really changed. So we live precariously until such time as we can get economic growth going, we can reduce unemployment, and we can, in a sense, fix the criminal justice system.
The violence was also something that yet again put the spotlight on the vast inequalities in South Africa. People were very anxious, no matter where they lived in South Africa, people were very anxious at that time. But at the same time, there were many who live a more privileged existence in South Africa who were able to watch all of this unfold from the comfort of their homes, bringing to light again the stark and very tragic realities of so many South Africans who are living in abject poverties and whose very existence has not changed or improved much over the last 2 decades. What did you make of the response to that from those in Parliament, in government?
Well, to fix that, South Africa needs economic growth. And we can't grow until we fix our electricity challenges, and that is just there are many challenges we can discuss, and there are many issues, but in the short term, that really is the essential challenge. The load shedding that we have, the lack of capacity on electricity, is like a wet blanket over the South African economy, and that really needs to be fixed before really we can try and grow, and through economic growth reduce unemployment, provide jobs and incomes for South Africans. So that's sort of, in a sense, the easy answer, but it will take, it's going to take a long time for that to have an effect. So in the meanwhile, what we need to do is we also need to fix our institutions that need to respond to this. There I'm, of course, referring to the police in all its essentials. The last few days we've seen, for example, the extent to which a re-examination of the extent to which the priorities within the police are just completely skewed, with a focus on VIP protection instead of competence within the police. We need to fix all the elements of the criminal justice system, including the intelligence agencies and the SANDF, which is like the last vehicle of response. Economics and development lies at the root of this, and without fixing that really is the long-term challenge that we face. But we also need to spend time on looking how we can get more bang for the buck from our security agencies.
Let's focus a little bit on that cluster, because the other thing that those very violent scenes made abundantly clear was that this was an incident that could have been avoided, that our intelligence, our safety and security cluster had dropped the ball, and possibly because of political influence of some kind, of political factions or political movements, call it what you will. Do you think lessons have been learned from that, or are we at risk of seeing similar incidents happening in the future?
Well, what happened at that point was that instability within the governing party had spilled over into the rest of society, and the instability, the chaos within the ANC, in actual fact, became a national a liability. And that instability, to a degree, has reduced. We don't see the infighting within the ANC. Jacob Zuma is no longer a national feature. The RAT faction has, to a degree, been neutralized, but the ANC still remains a incoherent party that is very factionalized, and then we see the repeat evidence of corruption. So that is a challenge. Politically, until we are heading to 2024 elections, and given the levels of unemployment and inequality that you mentioned, certainly the months that lie ahead are going to be difficult. Let's say the elections are in April or May next year. I think in the run-up to that, we are going to see communities take the law into their own hands and demand attention from politicians who are on the campaign trail. So that is a source of concern. Yeah. Luckily, there is signs that the load shedding is mitigating to a degree, but that'll take a while to decline. So I'm afraid that the months ahead are probably going to be, well, the year ahead, I would say, we're probably going to be relatively violent, which again places the emphasis on making sure that we fix some of the basic things that can be done within the police. Now, what has happened at the moment is that the focus is really on getting more police on the street, and the Institute has long argued that that in itself is not a solution. We really need evidence-based and intelligence-led policing. And the second response from government has to invest in technology. But of course, without the ability for policemen and women to manage that technology, it's not necessarily a silver bullet that's going to resolve other things. So we see huge investments in cameras and surveillance equipment, but I'm personally quite worried about the ability of the police to be really able to manage that effectively.
Okay, very, very a straightforward assessment there from Jakkie Cilliers. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Jakkie is Head of African Futures and Innovation at the Institute for Security Studies. I'm pretty sure that's not the last time we'll be speaking to him over the coming important months that we face.